Hey folks, we're just wrapping up week 3, halfway through the class. Thought I'd just do a little video here to um, focus us in as we get ready for the last half of the class. Just got done grading the One Great Person essays. Really some excellent work there, some really good papers. We're really making progress on our paper formatting and style and how you're presenting your work. So excellent job for the most part on that exercise. Now, as we roll into the second half of the class, our focus really is needs to hone in on Esther and our analysis of that book. And you want to keep in mind that our whole focus is analyzing it based on the three-world approach. So historical, literary, not literal, literary, and contemporary. And we want to keep in mind that contemporary analysis has two parts. First, what did it mean to the original audience? And then second, how do we take that truth, that meaning that they understood, and apply it today in our lives? And again, we can have multiple applications in our current lives because we're all in different contexts at different points in our journeys. So I wouldn't expect those applications all to be the same, but that original truth that the original audience understood should all pretty much be the same. We want to make sure we're analyzing the text. There's a tendency to want to retell the story. It's a common tendency. We all kind of want to do that. Especially Esther. I think it's a very fascinating story, and it's easy to want to tell the story because just telling the story is interesting. But we want to dig in and provide an analysis, not just retell a story. So there's some of the things you'll want to consider in this story, and we're looking at it from a leadership standpoint, not so much the theology from it. But there are multiple leaders in this story, good, bad, otherwise. There are all kinds of leaders, all being different kinds of leaders, different characteristics of leadership, different styles of leadership. One of the big things for leadership that I'm sure you all know is influencing. Leaders influence. So who's influencing in the story? It's not just Esther. Just because her name's in the title, we tend to want to focus on her, but while she is a main character, she's just one of them and not the only one influencing in this story. So we want to consider that. And we really want to dig deep and consider things like, is it really okay that Esther has violated 4 Jewish laws? Do the ends justify the means for a leader? How can we get past that? Do we need to get past that? Do we care? So it's things like that. Really dig into the text and what's really being written about, what's really being told to us in the text. Make sure we're not reading things into the text. That can also be an issue that we can fall into. I remember in the past I've had students tell me that the first queen was denied her birthright. Well, there's nothing in the story that says that. In fact, if you understand the historical context, you understand how queens were selected, just the same way that Esther was. Esther had no birthright. In fact, she's not part of any royal family. She's from a different race, a different ethnic group. We tend to think of monarchies the way we do the British monarchy, which is a birthright monarchy. You ascend to the throne because you have a birthright. That was not at all the case in ancient Babylon. You were the king because you were the most powerful. If another guy came along who had no blood relation to you and thought he should be king and was more powerful than you, he became the king. And they picked their wives from the harem or from whatever captive lands they did. There was no birthright involved. So don't read into the story what's not there. Well, it may be entertaining. It's not factual, and it really doesn't help us understand what's going on. The genre of the story is very important. If you don't understand the genre, it's going to be very difficult for you to analyze it appropriately. So make sure you discover what the genre is and keep that in mind as you're reading through it. And remember to cite everything you're doing, and when all your work needs to be cited, but especially as we're working on Esther and building up to our signature assignment. We've got to have citations to know where things are coming from and to help us prove our argument. You're going to write a thesis statement. Your thesis statement will be the very first statement in your paper, and it will start out, the book of Esther is about, and then you're going to tell us what it's about in relation to some leadership aspect. And then your job in the paper is prove that. So you'll need citations to show us where you're getting your information and your facts. Now, this is our class Bible. This is actually an edited book. It's much more than a Bible. There's a Bible in this book. There's also a number of other things. This is the commentary in the front of Esther. Everybody needs to read this. If you have not read this, you're missing out, and you will not do well on your paper. This commentary has an author. The author's name is at the very end here. You'll also see there are notes down here, which I'm sure some of you have read. Those notes are not part of the Bible. Those are it's what someone's added to us to help us understand it. There's an author for those. It's not scripture. There's also all the information at the back, which you had to use in some of your other assignments. Let me just get here. The canons of the Bible, we did an exercise on that. So you would have used this little bit at the back about the canons. And when you get to the end of this essay, there's an author listed, or at the end of each section, there are author or authors listed. You need to understand who that author is, because that's who you need to be citing. So this is an edited book. It needs to be listed in the reference list and associated with your reference for those other helps, the essays, the commentaries, the notes. In relation to the citations for those, you need to include this as an edited volume and a reference that links back to that work. So you need to look that up in your APA manual and find out how to do that correctly. Your citation is just like any book citation. It's the author's name and the year. And then your reference we'll start with that author's name, and then the rest of it's about the edited volume. So you want to look that up to get that correct. NOAB is just an abbreviation that's used by the school to reference this book. NOAB should appear nowhere in your work. It's not a proper reference. It's not a version of the Bible. It's not the name of this book. It's an abbreviation just to make things simple in Moodle and wherever we're referring to it. Now, when you're doing your biblical references for a Bible verse or whatever, the format, as you know, is open parenthesis, Esther 1 for chapter 1, colon 1 to 5 for verses 1 to 5, comma, the first time you have a biblical citation, comma, and then the version of the Bible. Our version of the Bible is this, NRSV, close parenthesis. The next time you do it, it's exactly the same, except you don't have to provide the NRSV. The only time you would provide the version again is if you change version, and you won't be, because this is all we're using. So keep that in mind when you're doing your citations. Every statement of fact you write in a paper or an assignment requires a citation. Where is that information coming from? If you don't have a citation, you're either giving us your opinion, which is not what we're after. We're after what do these things teach us, or you're plagiarizing. And you don't want to be in either of those situations. So don't give us your opinions. Tell us what you're getting out of this information. Tell us where it's coming from. And then you've met your requirements for citation. You can't write a paragraph and have one citation at the end and think you've cited your paragraph. Your paragraph is, Jesus was born to Joseph and Mary. That's a statement of fact. There should be a citation for that. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Well, that's a statement of fact. What's your citation? Jesus lived in Galilee and worked and learned his father's trade as a carpenter. That's a citation. And if that's all in one paragraph, you just wouldn't have a citation at the end. You would have one at each one of those sentences. So make sure you're citing your work appropriately and telling us where your stuff's coming from. And again, the Bible itself is never listed in the reference list. I can tell who hasn't looked at the Bible, at the APA helps, because the very first thing in that PowerPoint is do not include the Bible in your reference list. So make sure you're using those tools that have been provided in Moodle to help you along. Also, there are no outside resources to be used in the class. Again, in the general section of Moodle, you don't even have to click it open. There's a little paragraph about what resources can be used in the class. For this class, everything you need is contained within the class in all of our resources. Everything in this, the Bible, our edited volume that includes our scripture and these commentaries and notes and all this other information, we can use that. Fee and Stewart are the class books. Everything you need to be very successful in this class, especially on your signature paper, is included. I would expect to see you citing Fee and Stewart in your signature paper because they have a lot of information that feeds into your historical analysis, your literary analysis, to a certain extent, the original contemporary analysis. Remember, contemporary analysis starts with the original, what the original audience understood, how they understood it, what was the truth being taught, and then how do we apply it in our lives. So all of these tools that we have are available to use. We don't need outside resources. The one exception to that is I've given you a list of leadership theories and theorists. If you've read that information, you can use it. But I caution you, I know what all those say. Don't try to fake your way through it. I had a student do that once. He thought he could just write stuff and reference it randomly to those people. But I've read all of those. I understand exactly what they wrote about. So if you've read them and understand it, you can cite them and apply it where appropriate. And I encourage you to do that. But no outside resources for any of our assignments. The point being, we're after what is this learning how to apply the three-world analysis and understanding what the tools we have at hand, which is everything included in the class, how it helps us understand what we need to understand. This class isn't about who can find the coolest and best resources. There are plenty of things out there. I realize that. I've got bookshelves full of them. I've got a computer with thousands of those on it. That's not the point of this class. Just trying to control some of your information and get you used to using just what you have at hand to understand what's written in the Bible and how you apply it to your life. So that's our point, and that's why we have that restriction in this class. It also helps make it a little bit simpler for you and me. Okay, we're heading into the second half. I just want to encourage you. We're making some good progress. Make sure you're citing your work. It's really important. Again, for the reasons I stated before. But let's just keep making progress, keep focusing, really dig into the analysis of Esther, and keep getting your assignments done and in on time, and they'll help build the skill set you need to get that paper done, and have it be a paper that you're proud of, that's really good, and that I'm anxious to read. If you have any questions, just drop me an email, let me know. Oh, we're heading into week 4. Originally week 4, we had a couple of group assignments, but I'm not going to make anything a group assignment. I think it's just simpler for us to just do the normal routine of do an initial post and reply to 2 of your classmates. So if I missed any reference to group stuff in week 4 and not pulled it out, just ignore it. If you come upon that, just do your initial post, follow up with 2 replies, using the same timing that's set up in that structure. Hope that helps get us through this week. I think it'll make it a little simpler. It tends to be a hassle sometimes dealing with the group stuff and the way Moodle deals with it. So again, hopefully we've make that simpler. All right, good luck, and let me know if you need any help or have any questions.